Hello and welcome to the Italian Grand Prix from the pit lane. Now the pit lane is currently absolutely full, so we come through to the very hot paddock, and the pit lane is full because the teams have now got a race against time to get their cars and equipment ready for Singapore. They put them on the trucks tonight, Sunday night. They will arrive back in the UK, the teams that are based in the UK, like Red Bull, on Tuesday afternoon, and then the teams have to put their cars, they have to strip the cars down, build them up again, repaint them, because the last flyaways, they won't come back to base, and then stick them in a packing case and get them to Stansted Airport, where they'll fly out for the Singapore Grand Prix on Friday. So it's absolute mayhem in the pit lane. So we come through to a very busy paddock and plenty of people around. Let's talk about Red Bull first of all. Now, Christian Horner called it a very controlled drive, and that's sort of code for we didn't have to fight for it. And I think that's part of your answer as to whether Michael Schumacher cost the McLarens the opportunity to challenge Sebastian Vettel for the win. But we'll talk about McLaren in a moment. Red Bull also just getting ready for their photo here, and just happened across Eddie Irvine here, who's talking to some German journalists just in the grey jacket here. So we'll ask him a question in just a moment. But Sebastian Vettel, Christian Horner also said, answered the question, can he overtake? And a lot of people have been emailing me over the last few years saying Vettel is a guy who can't overtake. He wins races from the front. And there is an amount of evidence that supports that, but Vettel has really answered that with that fantastic move on Fernando Alonso. He described it in the press conference. He said he got a very good exit from turn 3, and he wasn't sure which way to go. So he saw where Alonso was, and then he went left at the last minute. And that actually worked. I've just broken away because Adrian Newey's just come out of the motorhome, and I just wanted to ask Adrian. Adrian, we're just doing a piece for the BBC website. I just wanted to ask you one question: how have you managed to make this car quick on low drag, low downforce circuits when last year's car hasn't been?
Well, it wasn't only last year's car, RB5 as well, the 2009 car. We struggled a bit at this circuit, and indeed to a lesser extent at Spa. So. Renault have done a great job, along with Total, of developing the engine within the frozen regulations, oil and so forth. And then from our side, we tried to go away, understand how we could improve the car at these sorts of circuits, and set about a programme. I'm happy to say it seemed to work today.
Certainly did. Okay, many congratulations. We'll let you go as I nearly get run over there. But interesting, yeah, I was just going to finish what Sebastian Vettel was saying. Eventually, I went left. I hoped Fernando Alonso had seen me, kept my foot in, and Vettel called Alonso an animal. He said even though Alonso's a bit of an animal, he made the move stick. But with Alonso, that's twice in 2 races that he's been overtaken by a Red Bull in a high-speed corner. Mark Webber in the middle of Eau Rouge in Belgium, and Sebastian Vettel in the Curva Grande here at Monza. So I thought that was particularly interesting. Interesting also that Adrian Newey mentions Renault, because the story you might have missed amongst the weekend was that Red Bull have signed a new 5-year deal with the Renault-Nissan company, and that effectively makes Red Bull Racing the factory Renault team. Amazing when you think there is a team over there in black and gold who call themselves the Renault team. But that agreement effectively means that it's Red Bull who are leading Renault's charge in terms of the engines in Formula One. While we wait for the Swerve, as we call him, to finish his discussion with the German journalists, I'll tell you about McLaren. And they do believe that they could have won the race. You can argue amongst yourselves whether Michael Schumacher cost the McLarens a race or not. And of course it was Jenson Button who spent 16 laps behind Lewis Hamilton and Michael Schumacher, and he was losing a second lap per race. Their trouble started at the start when they didn't get particularly good starts. And Lewis Hamilton, who seemed to be asleep, and the team McLaren had no explanation as to why he wasn't closer up behind Michael Schumacher at the safety car restart, but that cost him. Lewis Hamilton, of course, did have the fastest lap of the race, but as we know, at the end of the race, Sebastian Vettel wasn't really trying. The one bright point for McLaren and McLaren fans out there is that McLaren scored more points today than anyone else. Ferrari, Fernando Alonso said that the start was a replica of Barcelona. He did exactly the same as he did in Barcelona when he went from 4th on the grid to 1st. His home race, everyone went wild. He does exactly the same Monza, Ferrari's home race. everyone goes wild again. And he said he was very nervous about the end of the race because of what happened at Spa when he was overtaken and lost that podium place. The team were very relieved that he managed to hold on to it there. Let's also tell you about Toro Rosso, as I just wiped some of the sweat from my brow. Very interesting race for them. Their best race of the season. A double finish and double points for them, with Alguersuari in 7th and Buemi in 10th. Just want to make sure I get that right. Buemi was complaining that his car was handling terribly because he got hit at the start. And so that was a good save for him. Best ever finish for Alguersuari in Formula One. And it's reduced the gap in the constructors between Toro Rosso and Force India and Sauber, because of course Sauber didn't finish today at all. Williams have a terrible weekend. Actually, not a bad save for them at the end. 11th and 12th, just missing out on a point that they so desperately need. Stuck in 9th place in the constructors. But they will have a new diffuser and a new front wing and new suspension for Singapore. So that's slightly hope in the future for Williams. 13th place finish for Team Lotus, which I referred to in the main program for Heikki Kovalainen, so that's good for them, and they're concentrating really on next year's car now. And finally, Virgin Racing. Pat Simmons doing a lot of work behind the scenes. They actually brought a new upgrade to this race. You might not have seen it. New side pods. Eddie, can we have a quick word? New side pods, so progress going on at Virgin. What did you make of it? Did Schumacher cost the McLarens the win? Did we see it too easy for Vettel today? What?
I don't think Michael's driving was completely correct, but now you've got the dropping wing, whatever it's called. You've got the button to push that makes you go faster. So if you can't overtake with all that going on, it's like, I think it's a mess. You know, you don't know when they're on the limiter. You don't know if they've got the EPS. What is it? The wing drops down, the button pushed.
Yes. DRS. It's a very kind of Formula One DRS, isn't it?
It's a mess. I think the formula now is a mess. It's just too much. It's like you see an overtaker maneuver, you don't know they did it with the button, they did it with the wing, they did it with all of them, or they actually did something that was good. And now everybody overtakes 50 times a race. It's like fishing for minnows. You know, it doesn't make sense.
Or shooting fish in a barrel. I'm very pleased this is recorded because we can bleep out all the swear words.
Okay, sorry. Did I swear? They're all soft words. So they weren't bad swear words.
It's just part of your everyday language. Nice to see you. How's life?
Good, very good. Just came
All
from Portofino. Gypsy Kings were playing last night, or the Gypsy King.
Beautiful.
The one that sings, so that's all that mattered.
Okay. Eddie, thank you very much. The life of Eddie Irvine these days, and who knows? If he'd had DRS and KERS and all these buttons he's talking about, he might have won a championship for Ferrari instead of not. I'll see you in Singapore.